to mind. We're doing top 5 Stallone movies, and just to stay on point with seeing Judge Dredd. We did Guardians of the Galaxy the other week, which Stallone is in. And so we decided top 5 Stallone movies that are not Rocky. So none of the Rocky movies can be in this, which, I mean, if I were him, I'd be pretty peeved to hear like you're doing my top movies and you're not even going to allow the franchise that's my best franchise. But we already know that would be, those movies would all be the top 5.
Honest question. Like if we did top 5 Stallone movies, how many are going to be Rockies? 4? Maybe 3.
Number 4, number 3, in terms of Rocky 4, Rocky 3, maybe Rocky 2. Maybe
the original won Best Picture at the Oscars.
I like the original, but I like Clubber Lang better, and I like.
It just depends. Like they evolve. Man, it's a great film series because the way it evolved.
Yeah,
I feel like 1 and 2 is like the same movie with a different result.
It's literally exactly what it is. So, anyways, so let's jump into this. Our top 5 Stallone movies that are not Rocky. This was such a weird list, going through his movies and trying to pick like what. I think we've talked about most of these at some point, or some of them. I'm going to give my honorable mentions first because I think they deserve shout outs. First honorable mention, Rambo 2008, when they kind of did the way late sequel remake. I loved that movie. I thought it was like bringing this old classic 90s, 80s style action movies and doing like a modern take with modern effects. And it was freaking awesome. He literally uses a 50 cal machine gun from like point blank range to like slice a man in half. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then Ants. Ants is the adult version of A Bug's Life.
Yes,
if you have not seen the movie Ants, you have to watch it. It is so good. I love that movie. I didn't feel like it could be on the top 5 because he's not the main character. He's like a side character.
Yep.
I mean, he's like the best friend of the main character. So I just didn't feel like that could be in this, but I did want to mention it because I love the movie Ants. Now I want to go watch it. Number 5, this movie, I don't know why, but I just think it's freaking cool. Get Carter. I don't know if you saw Get Carter.
But, I think I own it. Yeah. That's a remake.
So Mickey Rourke is in it. Michael Caine is in it.
Yeah, Michael Caine was the original main character. He was the original guy.
Oh, I did not know that. I hadn't seen the original. So that's kind of cool that he would be in this.
Yeah.
So like the actors that were in it are cool. I actually love Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
It's just super cool. He's not like the mob enforcer. I guess that's his technical like term, is basically like if someone makes a deal with the mob and they don't take care of their business, they go get Carter and he takes care of them. And then it turns into this big conspiracy story of his brother dies. And then he basically is going on this mission to find out like who killed him and why. And it flips his whole world upside down. But anyways, Get Carter, super cool movie. Loved it. Here we go. Now we're jumping into my nostalgia childhood. This movie, I don't know why I love it, but I freaking love this movie. Over the Top.
Oh, yeah. I was hoping you'd have it on there.
I freaking love Over the Top. And if you don't know Over the Top and you're watching the video version and not the listening on podcast, this arm wrestling thing we're doing, it's literally a movie about Sly being a competitive arm wrestler. He's a truck driver. He's got a son, which I don't think it's the same kid from the Rocky movies, but for whatever reason, when I was a kid, I felt like it was just the same actor. The same kid was playing his kid as Stallone is this like badass truck driver who, it's like Rocky if Rocky was for competitive arm wrestling. So the music is classic. It's fantastic. It definitely is not a good movie, but it is awesome from my childhood. So
it's a great movie.
Over the top. My mom got me, I don't know why, but she got me like the Blu-ray of it. So I've got that bad boy. It's still sealed though.
So we don't know what it's on each other's list, and him and I both did the hand thing at the same time. Like, yes.
Yeah. I don't know how you knew that's where I was going. My number 3, this one, I think we've either talked about it on the pod or we've talked about it between episodes. You hated this movie, or maybe you never even saw it, but you said it looked stupid and not interesting to you. I don't know why in our household we watch this movie a lot. Stop or my mom will shoot.
I've seen it. It's
this fucking movie is so funny. Stallone is hilarious when he wants to be.
We talked about it on the pod. We talked about it on the pod because this was the movie that Arnold purposely said no to, but told his agents to like tell Sly's agents that, oh, he really is interested.
Oh man, what a classic with freaking one of the Golden Girls.
Estelle Getty. It was Estelle Getty.
She plays Stallone's mom who's visiting him. He's the same character that he's in. He's basically Judge Dredd in this. He's like the number one cop who's like just like a total manly man, and then who's a bachelor, and then his mom comes to live with him for like a couple of weeks and just like ruins his life. So she washes his gun. Like that was I never knew anything about like gun having like patina and stuff. I learned it from this movie. She washes his gun and it's like chrome and clean, and he's like yelling at his mom like, what did you do to my gun? Just a fucking classic. We should watch that.
No, we shouldn't.
These top 2 were hard for me. We already know what the answers are, but I had flip-flopped them twice. My number 2 movie, this pained me to not have it number 1, Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is my number 2 Stallone movie outside of Rocky. I love that movie, as you know from this entire podcast. I'm not going to jump in. I think it's a great Stallone movie. He's a badass Judge Dredd. It's not his fault. Well, technically it is his fault, but it's not his fault that he wasn't in his costume the whole time. And my number 1 movie, which I saw in your eyes, you realized what franchise or movies I didn't have in this list.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're at top 5. Hit number 1, Demolition Man. What a fucking movie.
This is an awesome
Demolition Man is badass. Wesley Snipes plays this kooky, zany, crazy bad guy.
He's like Antonio Brown that knows capoeira.
Oh my God.
That's who it is.
That is a great comparison. The concept of Demolition Man is so fucking cool. So Wesley Snipes is this like repeat offender, like I can't even say the word right. What am I megalomaniacal? What am I saying? Anyways,
I know what you're talking
about. He's like a super villain.
Megalomaniac.
That's megalomaniac.
Yeah.
It's been a long week.
That's a lot.
Anyways, he is like a supervillain in like the 80s or 90s, and Stallone is like the top cop who chases him and is like constantly going after him. It's like Batman and Robin, or Batman and Joker, like they're constantly going. Wesley Snipes gets like cryo frozen, or they capture him and put him in jail and they cryo freeze him. I don't know why they did that.
So at the beginning, there's like they had the big action scene where like Wesley Snipes is in this building and Stallone's like, I'm going in to get him. And everybody's like, no, we got to get everybody out safely first. And Stallone like ends up blowing up the building and a whole bunch of innocent people die. So they both go to prison.
Oh yeah. So they both, I thought I remember that they had froze him because they froze Wesley, they froze him. But you're right. I forgot that all those people died. So they both get cryo frozen, and then Wesley Snipes, somebody thaws him out, like the main bad guys or the main people pulling the strings. They thaw him out so that he can run amok in this futuristic city. and the only way that they can stop him is they have to thaw out the Demolition Man.
Right.
And they call him that because, like you said, he blows up this building. He's like constantly costing the Force a lot of money because he doesn't care. He just will do anything, any means necessary to get the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's awesome. It's set in like this futuristic kind of LA. Every fancy restaurant is Taco Bell. Sandra Bullock is just an awesome love interest slash
like sidekick
to him. The 3 seashells that are in the bathroom, which they never explain. Cool thing in the video game Cyberpunk 2077, they have 3 seashells in the bathrooms.
Oh, that's funny.
Just as kind of a nod to that movie. Yeah, I don't know why, but I just love that movie. Anytime I hear of it, it makes me think of like not Hard Rock Cafe, the Planet Hollywood restaurants, because I grew up in California and those were everywhere out there, but they would always have the Stallone like in the cryo freeze like thing, just like frozen over the top of the restaurant. And anyways, yeah, it's my top 5 Stallone, not Rocky movies.
So we have, we only have 2 on the list.
Fascinating.
It's fascinating because of how many movies there really are on this. There's some movies Stallone did that where he's like a part of a ensemble and stuff that were really good, especially when he was younger. That I can't remember what it was called. Is it Victory? The one where he's like they're in prison and they got to play like the soccer game. That's a really good. That's a really good movie. But I didn't have that on the list.
Yeah, there were a couple I didn't do, like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like obviously it's a good movie, but that's not a Stallone movie. He's just in it.
Yeah, and he's not in it very much. So my honorable mention, I did throw one on there. I don't usually do the honorable mentions, but I threw one on there. It was the Rambo 2008 was my honorable mention as well.
We both had that as an honorable. Does that count as an extra one?
Yeah, it's almost like a bonus pick because it's like it's not a super great movie, but it's a lot of fun to watch because it's so excessively violent. You know, and it's kind of like the return to the character kind of deal, which is neat. Number 5, I had Over the Top. Number 5, which is I love that movie. You really went into it. It's super like cheesy, like he's trying to get his son, but like the grandpa like wants to get the kid and he's like chasing after him, and it's the competitive arm wrestling's part of the main plot too, but it's an awesome movie.
Rocky with arm wrestling.
It kind of is. It's a good movie though. It's probably not viewed as a great movie, but I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. Number 4, I had Cliffhanger at number 4, which I think is another one of those like just kind of gets lost in the 90s action movies. I just thought it was kind of cool because it had a different setting. I think Stallone's like he's like a climbing instructor / like rescue guy in the mountains, and there's terrorists. I can't remember exactly what the plot point is. I think John Lithgow is like the main bad guy, and he's awesome. John Lithgow, he chews scenery like it's nothing. He's his dialogue. He's just so he's so good as a bad guy. It's awesome.
It was hard for me not to have that on the list.
Yeah,
that was one that I was like, this is everybody knows this. It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. They're making a sequel.
Ace Ventura 2. What?
They just announced that within the last like few weeks. They're making a sequel to Cliffhanger. Yeah.
They got to do that same scene where
he's hanging up.
I only really remember that movie because the cable going across, he's hanging upside down, and
it's a good movie.
Ace Ventura 2 reenacts the entire scene with the raccoon, lets him go. It's not.
But Cliffhanger, it's a cool 90s action movie because it's like a different setting. It's not your typical
under siege mountain climbing.
Yeah, style. Die Hard on a mountain. That's what it is. Number 3, I had Demolition Man. All the things.
Number 3.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Get out of here.
Man, my top 2 are. I wonder if you've ever.
They're gonna be.
I wonder if you've ever seen number 1. We'll see. Demolition Man's number 3. All the things you talked about. It's great. Like, yeah, the story's kind of goofy where they thaw him out. Basically, like the guy that runs everything now in this peaceful futuristic world thaws out like this supervillain because he has like there's an underground group of people that are like they're
Oh yeah,
stealing and
that's
stuff.
yeah.
And so basically he thaws out this guy because there's basically people committing misdemeanors in his perfect society. So he thaws out the worst possible person to like eliminate them. And then that guy's like, everybody's a pussy. I'm going to take over. It's basically what it is. And then they have to get Stallone out. Number 2, I have First Blood, the original John Rambo movie. So First Blood was based on a book. It's totally different tone than everything else that Rambo was. Rambo, talk about a spinoff that completely left the like original story behind.
Yes.
Basically, Stallone's like a Vietnam vet, and he's like a transient. He's like traveling through the country, and he gets into a small town. I think it's in Colorado or it's in the mountains, something like that. I don't. Basically, like they don't like transients. They don't want him there. He doesn't go quietly, and he ends up fighting the entire police force. And then they got to bring other people. It's a great movie. It's not like it's not a pure really, action movie.
It's a lot about like mental health after war and PTSD and stuff like that.
So. Yeah, a lot of dialogue too. There's a lot about it in the story too, kind of about how these vets were viewed coming out of Vietnam because the war was so hated, and like the people that went and fought in it, even though a lot of them didn't have the choice, were viewed coming back. They're like, oh, you're one of them kind of deal. So it really is a good movie. Brian Denny, he's like the town sheriff, and he's a really great bad guy in that too. And it's almost like he's not a bad guy. He's just kind of like this. He's kind of just an asshole, Yeah. I mean, like his character's just an asshole and he goes too far, and Stallone's like not going to put up with it. And, obviously that evolved into this huge action franchise with John Rambo. But First Blood's a great movie. My number 1 Sylvester Stallone movie, and it's like the movie the most where he kind of got out of character, is the 1997 James Mangold directed and written Copland.
Oh yeah, I know Copland.
Okay, so
I know Copland, the tan unis.
Yeah, so Copland is a very low budget. It was a $15 million movie made in 1997. The big thing about this when it came out was it was one of those like things where this famous action star like changes the kind of movie he's going to do. It's more of a dramatic role, right? It's about a small town in New Jersey that's like across the river from New York City. And Stallone's like the kind of, he kind of get the vibe like he's this dim-witted, he's overweight, like he puts on a bunch, he's got to put on a bunch of weight for this role, town sheriff. And there's all these like crooked cops from like New York that like live in the town, and it's like that's where they all live, and they do all their behind the scenes kind of corruption stuff. And he kind of just turns away, and then he kind of has to deal with it eventually, and it's basically him versus all these corrupt cops. And
I remember like distinctly when they shoot the gun by his head, and then they like
blows his eardrum, and he can't hear. And they do a really good job in the movie too of like they where the whole screen is silent and it's like he can't hear, and he kind of gives you that kind of sense. He came out, he like totally different movie role for him. I mean, obviously he could do dramatics, like we've seen it in Rocky, like he was nominated for Oscar for Rocky and everything like that. Just it felt like it was totally out of role because he'd already become this like big action star. He's making movies like Tango and Cash and Cliffhanger and Demolition Man and Judge Dredd, and he comes out and he makes the movie Copland, and it's a great movie. Like it's a good movie. And
I'm shocked.
He's the best part. He's the best part of that movie, and he's like up against like Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel. Like these are the cops in this movie, and Stallone's the best part of the movie. And it blows me away that he was able to take on that role and do such a great job.
Yeah, it's a great movie. When I was going through his list of total movies, that was one that was like, that was one of his best like acting roles. But for me, like like that or Get Carter are like like interchangeable, I would say.
Yeah.
For me, not like in terms of like his acting prowess. But I'm shocked you didn't have Expendables on here.
You
I
know,
thought
like
for sure you were going to be like Expendables 1 and 2, number 1 and 2.
no, those. I mean, those movies. They are what they are. I mean, we all know what they are. They like bring. It's like an all-star action movie. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
basically, it's and they're
It's like
cool
we can
movies.
finally do a movie to get Arnold and me in the
Yeah,
same. When Expendables 1 came out, it was like a big deal
yeah.
because it was like Arnold and Sly
And
are in
then
the
is it the
same
second one?
movie.
Is it the second one? And then they got like John Claude Van Damme's the bad guy in one of them. Isn't Mel
Yep,
Gibson the
yep.
bad guy in one of them? Like it's
Mel Gibson.
yeah. Dolph
There
Lundgren's in the
are
freaking movie.
like
It's
basically
great.
every action star ever. Jason Statham's in
Yeah,
it,
a
I
lot of them.
think.
Yeah, I think Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham are like the two main characters in those
Yeah,
movies. Like I don't dislike those movies. I think they're good. They're just they are what they are, right? Like they
for sure.
I don't see the Expendables franchise as like classics, like Demolition Man, right?
I thought for sure you were gonna have them in your list. I thought when you were like, oh, you don't have this in your top 5. Like, how do you not have Expendables? I'm
First
proud
Blood.
of you. Is all I'm saying.
First Blood was the one I was surprised you didn't have on there. Like God, the original.
Yeah, I almost kind of threw Rambo. I mean, obviously, I did an honorable mention of them.
Yeah.
But I almost looked at the Rambo movies kind of like the Rockies. It's like, I don't want to put these in because it's a big franchise. And first one was way different than what the character is. Like, he's kind of the bad guy in the first one. Like,
it's kind of the who is the bad guy kind of deal. Like, because he's this vet and he's got PTSD and he's got mental issues and all that
but
stuff.
He's
right.
still killing people. Like, it doesn't change that. Anyways, good top 5. I like that.
No, that was
that
good.
was interesting.
The category works out better than I thought it was going to, actually. So I thought there was
for sure.
I was surprised we had so many differences. It was pretty good though. But
I am proud that we both had Over the Top in our.
Yeah, man. I got it on DVD. You got it on Blu-ray.